Hi, this is Eric. Welcome back to the African Homestead. Today I want to share with you what I've been working on lately, specifically livestock, more specifically sheep. Now, as you travel around West Africa, one thing you're going to see a lot of, well, two things, sheep and goats. And what's common here is what's known as the West African pygmy goat. And that goat, once it was selectively bred, turned into the Nigerian dwarf goat that you see in the US. The sheep is also West African dwarf sheep. And so that's what I was going to buy. And so this past weekend, we went somewhere. We've been looking around for a couple of weeks now for sheep. But after Ramadan and after Muhammad Day, the Muslims in the area, those are the main people that have sheep, they're trying to rebuild their flocks. And so nobody was selling any. So I had to go to a local person who was previously in the government, and he had some sheep that he was willing to sell me. So I was able to buy 3 ewes. One is young and the other 2 are reproduction age. And then 1 ram. I bought the ram from a different location because one of the challenges here, no matter what kind of livestock you're buying, is inbreeding. And so I wanted to get some fresh DNA in the mix, and so we have those now. And so I want to show you what I've been doing to train them to the electric fence, to establish a place for them to go out in the pasture, and also a place for them to be able to sleep that's not in my chicken coop. Now, to train the sheep to the electric fence, the first thing I did was to set up 3 wires on 3 sides up against the fence and the chain link fence. And so that way, when they hit it, they won't jump forward into the fence. They know they can't get out that way, so they'll be learning how to jump backwards. Because sheep, from what I've been told, generally when they're shocked, jump forward. And as normal sheep do, they were curious. They started sniffing around, investigating, and it didn't take long for all 4 of them to get shocked. And consequently, they ran to the other end of my chicken coop, and they just cowered in a circle with their heads together. And they spent a few hours that way until I finally came in and kind of walked around and encouraged them to get back out there. And we also put some food out in the center. Slowly they relaxed, but they definitely tried to stay away from that end of the chicken coop. After 2 days, I decided to close in the 4th side, and so I extended the 3 wires to close that in. Unfortunately, when I went to turn the Energizer on and I was coming back out, one of the sheep backed into the wire along the shipping container, and when it nailed him or her, she just ran through the wires and busted out, and all the rest of them followed her. And so I decided to add a 4th row. Did that, and fairly quickly, we were trying to put them back in, and they ran, one of them we put back in first, ran straight out. So then I decided, well, let's put a tarp there, and that tarp would act as a visual block so they can't see a way of escape. And that actually worked very well. And the other thing we did, instead of just putting 1 sheep in there and leaving the other 3 out, we picked up 3 of them at one time. There were 3 of us, and we're able to set 3 of the sheep in there at the same time, so they didn't feel separated from the flock. And that helped. And so far we haven't had any go out. So what I'm doing now is taking the tarp and slowly moving it away. And so it was up all night. This morning I moved it about 3 feet away from the wire. And this afternoon I'll move it probably another 3 to 6 feet away. And then for tonight I'll take it completely out and leave them in there. And so I'm hoping by, let's say, noon tomorrow, if they're still in and still doing fine, then I think we're going to try to transfer them down to the pasture. Another project I have is to build a mobile shelter. And so as we rotate these sheep around the pasture, they're going to need a little bit of a shelter that will protect them from the sun and the rain. And so we're building it nice and small, just big enough for them, and something lightweight enough that we can easily move it from one paddock to the next, but heavy enough and low enough that the wind can't get a hold of it and flip it over. And for this project, I'm using materials that I already have on hand. I like to keep a stock of lumber here. And in this case, I'm using a lot of scrap that's left over from other projects, 2x2s, and some wood that I've used in other construction projects that I then took apart. And so this skid is going to be essentially free from anything new money out of pocket. The steel roofing, the galvanized roofing that I have is some super thin stuff. It's really cheap. Again, I had on hand from a previous project, so I'm just repurposing it. the nails I have, the screws I have. So all of this stuff is just being built with what I have on hand. Right behind me is the location that I've selected to build the temporary shelter that the sheep will be sleeping in every night. As you can see, it's a location that's somewhat central in the pasture, and it's also on a hilltop, so that during the rainy season, even when the rain's falling, hopefully their feet will stay a little bit dry. Also, the grass is not very thick and the quality is poor in this location, so I don't mind sacrificing it. And the other good reason to locate it here is it's a very short walk from our small bamboo grove. Later on, the plan is to build a permanent structure on the hilltop right behind me. It's just a few feet away from where the temporary structure is going. But the main reason I'm waiting for that is I want to wait and get some cows and be able to size it correctly to be able to handle the sheep and the cows in the night. Now that structure is going to have steel roof. It's going to have concrete pillars. We'll probably put a chain link fence around it with a gate, and it'll have a cement floor. The floor will be sloped, so we'll be able to collect the urine and manure to use in composting and use in the garden. And it will also have a rainwater collection system. Anything we can do to reduce the hauling of water from the house, which is way up the hill behind me, down here is a bonus. And so the roof will collect rainwater into an IBC tote or two, and then we'll be able to keep the animals watered well with that. And since it's on a hilltop location, we can connect a hose and run it down to anywhere in the pasture where the animals are located, which will simplify things. Now the area behind me will be the sheep's first paddock. Originally I sized it at 25 feet by 25 feet, but I found that as I was training them to the electric fence, if they got scared at all, especially if one of them got shocked by the fence, it would just blow straight through the other side. And so they've learned to run away from the fence, but they haven't learned to stop to keep from running through the fence on the other side. And so I'm doing some work to train them better on that before I bring them down, but I thought I better give them a lot more room here, so if they do get shocked and they start running, they have time to stop before they hit the other side. So we increased the size to 50 feet by 50 feet. Should be a lot of grass, plenty of grass for them, and forbs. And so we'll see what they like and what they don't like. You know, as I walk through this particular patch, I counted at least 5 different types of grass. So I don't know the species. I don't know how nutritious they are, how beneficial they are. There's a bunch of different forbs. There's some cassava leaf in there, which sheep and goats love, even though you want to give it to them in limited quantities because there's a small amount of arsenic in it. There's nothing in here that's going to be dangerous for them. And I also trust their judgment. These sheep have been free ranging their entire lives, and so they know what they can eat and what they cannot eat. Now, based on the sheep's extreme fear of the fence, once they experience it for the first few times, I decided I want to place the shelter roughly in the center of the paddock. That way, when they want to relax, when it's raining, when they're chewing their cud, when the sun's shining, they want to get out of the heat, they're not going to be placed close to the electric fence where they may not be able to really chill out. Now I'm really interested to see just how long this paddock will last, how long it will take them to eat the grass and forbs, because we are planning to rotationally graze these sheep, and we plan on adding cattle later. They'll probably graze inside the same fence since they don't share parasites, and they also tend to eat a little bit different diet, and so I think it'll be beneficial to graze them together. Right now we have about 8 acres of pasture. I plan on extending that to maybe 10 to 12 acres total, and then that's going to be it. Out of the 50 acres here, it'll be 20 to 25% pasture, and then the remainder we're going to leave the land for tree crops, and yeah, mostly tree crops. So at this point, we have about 4.5 acres that is really good pasture, good thick grass, a lot of diversity in that. And then we have an additional 3.5 acres that we cleared about 6 months ago, right before the beginning of the rainy season. We burned that. We collected all the sticks to make charcoal. I'll show you the charcoal pile later we're getting ready to burn. Now that pasture is about 75 to 80% weeds, and the balance is going to be grass that's coming up. This pasture, which has been burned twice, is just the opposite. It's about 75, 80% grass with a balance in weeds or forbs. For a long time here, for the first few years here, we had a no burn policy. And the areas that we were brushing and cutting over and over again, the grass that was coming in was minimal, but the weeds just kept coming back. And as I observed different farms around, I'd see someone had burned a farm and there was all this grass coming up, and even to overtake the cassava they were growing. And I figured out that the best way to produce grass here and to get that seed bank a chance to take off is to burn. And then I've also found with this pasture that's around, that I'm standing in the center of, that the second burning is key to really get a strong stand of grass. Now in the future, I don't have any plans to burn this. I think that once we get the animals on here and they're grazing and they're fertilizing and all that's going on, I think this pasture is just going to continue to improve without any further burning. Now I just moved up to the hilltop and I'd like to show you what's behind me. Now this area, we cleared it and burned it a couple of years ago. And then when we came back to clear it again before the rainy season, there wasn't that much here. And so when we tried to burn it, it didn't really burn. And you can see the difference it makes. The place I was standing before, the grass is tall and it's thick, and where I'm standing now is much more sparse and much shorter. Now the area behind me is what we cleared and burned about 4 months ago. And so this is all kind of grown back up in the last 4 months. We've cleared all the sticks and brush out of here to make the charcoal. And so these are the weeds coming up. And there is a mix of grass in there. I'd say it's not 75 to 80% weeds, but it's definitely majority weeds. And so this is an area, if we had goats, if I could stand goats, I tried goats, it didn't work. But if we had goats, they would love this area because everything they want to just live a lovely life is right here behind me. But with cows and sheep, we're gonna try to keep it dominant grass with some different forbs mixed in. Now our protocol in the past has been to come through when we clear an area to make pasture to help get it established. We need to come in about every 3 to 4 months with machetes and cut all the grass down, let it drop on the ground and start to decompose. That is because if you don't do that, the weeds will come up and they'll start shading out the grass. The trees will start leafing out again, and other woody bushes will come in, and soon it will just shade all the grass out, and you're gonna be starting from square one in not very long. Something about the wet tropics is, even in the dry season, it never gets brown and never stops growing. And we're about 6 weeks till the end of the rainy season, the official end, which is in mid-October. And then the dry season, officially starts there, but actually the rain just tapers off. Usually we get our last rains around the 1st of December. But even during the 6-month dry season, it's not uncommon for us to get measurable rain anywhere from 1 to 4 times a month. And so that's enough to keep the grass green, keep it from going dormant. Now, based on our experience in the other pasture and just judging how great that pasture has turned out from the second burning, the plan here is to do the same. We're gonna let it grow and rest and develop and thicken up for about 8 months. And then at the end of the dry season next spring, then we're gonna come through and we're gonna take the machetes, clear everything again, let it dry for a few days, burn it. And then when the rains hit, the grass just grows up like crazy. And then that's gonna be it. That's gonna be the last time. Now behind me is the coal that we were talking about. So this huge pile of wood that's covered in palm thatch is going to be burned next week to make charcoal. This thing is massive. I'm not kidding when I say it's about 12 feet at the peak and probably 30 to 35 feet diameter at the base. There is going to be a lot of charcoal that comes out of this. Tell me in the comment section below if you would like to see a tutorial on how to make charcoal the African way, and I'll see if I can put something together for you. That's all I have for today, but thank you so much for joining me again on the African Homestead. I'd love to hear what you think. Please leave a comment in the section below. Bye-bye.